Welcome to another lesson, and in this video we'll be exploring components deeply. We'll be talking about reusing components, passing props to components, prop type validation, and component composition. In the previous lesson we introduced what we call reusable components, but we'll be doing more of that in this video. And what is a reusable component? A reusable component is a component that can be used multiple times in our application. So for example, now the way we have welcome here, welcome component, and we can use it multiple times in our app. And also we can create this welcome component in a separate file so that we can use it in other components, and we can also add an export statement that will enable us to be able to use this welcome component anywhere in any other component in our app. So we'll be doing something like that in this video. So let's say we want to have a button under this text here, a reusable button component that we can use and call in anywhere in our app anytime. So how would we create that? So structuring your React app is very important. And though there's no best way to structure your app, but there are very good ways you can use to structure your app so that if someone else wants to look into your folder and file structure, they'll be able to easily find what they're looking for. So let's create a folder called components. And inside this folder is where we'll store all our components. Notice that we are inside the source folder. So inside this components folder, we'll create a component called button.tsx. And instead of writing the whole React function here, I'll just write a shortcut RFCE, and if I press tab, it will create the function for me on its own. You'll be able to do this if you have the React ES7 extension. You can get that from the VS Code extension market here. Now, for us to be able to create these button components to be reusable, the first thing we'll have to do will be to create our type or interface. Now, our interface will be called button props, and we will accept a string called text of type string. Now we'll come here and we'll write props of type button props, and in this particular place we'll have props.text. And remember, we're creating a button, so this will have to be a button element. As simple as this is, if we save that, we can go back to our app.tsx component. So under here we have the button component, and now we can see an error that says button is not defined. So we'll have to import that button from where it is. So first of all, we can go to the top here and say import button from, and we'll have to open a quote, and we can use this to go to the components folder and locate the button. So now we found the button, but it's still saying another error that property text is missing. So we'll have to add the text we want to show. So text, which is the prop that we accepted in the button component, and it's accepting a string. So we can say click me. And when we save that, if we go to the browser, we'll be able to see click me here. And also, if we want to reuse this button maybe in somewhere else, another component, we'll follow the same way we did it here. And we can just easily say, let's say some, and then you'll see that we can reuse this button anywhere and anytime. And so that is how we can create a reusable component by passing props into them and then using them anywhere in our app. Now let's discuss about prop types and validation. So TypeScript helps us to ensure that our components receive the correct props. So let us modify our button component here, and instead of just having the title here, let us have color, and our colors also be a string. So now if we don't want to do it this way, we can easily have an arrow function the way we will do it. And we can have this here, react dot fc, and as you can see here, we're using the arrow function and we're defining our props here, react.fc, and our button props, and we can just easily write the name of the props inside our parameters here, and then just write text instead of prop.text. So let's say we want to add a style, and the style we want to add is a background color. You don't have to worry about styling for now, we'll deal with that later, but I just want to show you how we can use props to add other attributes to our elements. So I can set our background color to whatever color we pass in from our button component. So if I save that now, our button component will be expecting a color prop. So if I add color equals to red, and I add color equals to blue for this one, if I save that and I go to the browser, you will see that the buttons have different color based on the props that I passed into them. So let's say a little about component composition. Now, component composition is a way to build complex UIs by combining simpler components. Think of it like building with Lego bricks. Now let's see an example. Let's delete all of this, and let's say in our component here, we want to render a card to our screen. So we have our cards interface, and we have title of type string and content of type string. Then we have our card component here of type React functional component. FC means functional component. Card props equals to, and we can have our title and content, and we'll have h2 here with our title in between, and under it we'll have a paragraph tag with our content there. So now let's say we have a page component which will render in our app component. This should be capital letter. So we render out two cards here. And when we render the card, it will request for the title and the content. And let's say our content just says this is the first card. And we have the same for our second card, but we'll change the props to card 2, and this is the second card. And so in our app component here, we render the page component. If we run that and we go to the browser, we'll be able to see card 1 with the content and card 2 with the content. We have our card component that has title and content. So this is one card. But then in our page components, we can render 2 cards or as many cards as possible. And then in our app components, we render our page component. So you can see that by combining different components together, we can create more complex and reusable UIs. So that's it from this video. See you in the next lesson.